The gate of World War II. No turning back.
But before we start, please support us by pressing like and subscribe buttons. Also turn on the bell notification to get the latest updates. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you.
The year was 1939, a year that began with uneasy silences and ended with the roar of artillery echoing across Europe. For years, the world had watched the rise of Nazi Germany with a mix of denial, fear, and reluctant diplomacy. Yet few truly believed that Adolf Hitler would plunge the world into another devastating war. That illusion shattered on September 1st, 1939, when German tanks rolled across the Polish border. The gates of World War II swung open, and there was no turning back. Prelude to chaos, Germany's road to war did not begin overnight. After its defeat in World War I, the Treaty of Versailles had left the country humiliated and economically crippled. The treaty demanded enormous reparations, dismantled the German military, and stripped away territories, creating a breeding ground for nationalist resentment. Out of that resentment rose Adolf Hitler, a charismatic yet ruthless leader who promised to restore Germany's honor and greatness. By the mid-1930s, Hitler had already begun violating the terms of Versailles. He rebuilt the German military, marched into the demilitarized Rhineland in 1936, and orchestrated the Anschluss, the annexation of Austria, in 1938. The Munich Agreement later that year handed him the Sudetenland, a region of Czechoslovakia, in the name of appeasement. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, convinced that peace had been secured, famously declared, "I believe it is peace for our time." He was wrong. In March 1939, Hitler broke his promises yet again and occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia. Alarm bells rang in London and Paris, but it was Poland, standing defiantly to the east, that now drew his attention. The pact that shocked the world, Poland, was next on Hitler's list, and he planned to take it by force. But Germany feared one obstacle: the Soviet Union. Invading Poland without Russian cooperation could lead to war on two fronts, a scenario that had doomed Germany in World War I. Yet in a stunning twist, on August 23, 1939, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression treaty that stunned the world. More than just a pact of peace, it was a sinister deal cloaked in secrecy. In a hidden protocol, the two powers agreed to carve up Eastern Europe between them. The western half of Poland would go to Germany, the eastern half to the USSR. Hitler had effectively neutralized the Soviet threat, at least for now. For Poland, the pact was a death sentence. Blitzkrieg begins at dawn on September 1st, 1939. Without a formal declaration of war, Germany invaded Poland. The attack was swift, brutal, and merciless. Under the doctrine of Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, German forces unleashed a coordinated assault combining tanks, aircraft, and infantry in rapid succession. The Polish defense was overwhelmed, cities were bombed, civilians were massacred, and refugees flooded the countryside. To justify the invasion, Hitler orchestrated a propaganda stunt. On August 31st, Nazi operatives dressed in Polish uniforms staged a fake attack on a German radio station in Gliwice. It was part of Operation Himmler, a series of false flag operations designed to make Germany appear the victim. Few were fooled, but the Nazi regime broadcast the lies anyway. Despite Poland's pleas, help did not come immediately. But unlike during the annexation of Czechoslovakia, the West was no longer willing to appease Hitler. Britain and France declare war on September 3, 1939. 2 days after the invasion began, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The announcements were grim and reluctant, echoing with the weight of dread. Chamberlain addressed the British people over the radio. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note. "I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently, this country is at war with Germany." The world had crossed the threshold. The gate of war had opened, and millions would soon be swallowed by its darkness. Fall of Poland. While Britain and France had declared war, their support for Poland was limited. Western forces remained largely inactive during what became known as the Phony War, a period of eerie calm on the Western Front. Meanwhile, Poland was left to fend for itself against the Nazi war machine. On September 17th, the Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east in accordance with the secret terms of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Trapped between two totalitarian juggernauts, Poland was doomed. Warsaw fell on September 27th after a devastating siege. By early October, the country was fully occupied. Poland's defeat was more than a military loss. It was a humanitarian catastrophe. The Nazis began implementing their policies of terror immediately. Jews, intellectuals, and political leaders were rounded up, imprisoned, or executed. The SS and Gestapo established a reign of terror that would evolve into the horrors of the Holocaust. The war widens. Though the major powers were now technically at war, much of Europe remained paralyzed. Some hoped that negotiations could still end the conflict. Others believed Hitler would stop at Poland. But Hitler had no intention of stopping. In the following months, the Nazis consolidated control of Poland while preparing for further conquests. Hitler eyed the rest of Europe like a chessboard. Denmark and Norway would fall in April 1940. Then came the lightning invasion of France in May. By June 1940, Paris had fallen. The fire that was lit in September 1939 spread rapidly. World War II became truly global, eventually involving more than 100 million people across continents. The United States, the Soviet Union, and the Axis powers would all be drawn into the inferno, a gate of no return. The invasion of Poland marked not only the start of World War II, it marked the moment when diplomacy gave way to destruction, when the ambitions of tyrants could no longer be ignored. The gates to war were flung open by Nazi aggression, and no power on earth could close them again. For the millions who would perish in the years that followed, in the trenches, in the ghettos, in the gas chambers, the events of 1939 were the beginning of a nightmare. For the world, it was a lesson in the cost of appeasement and the peril of unchecked power. What began as a regional invasion spiraled into the deadliest conflict in human history. By the time World War II ended in 1945, over 70 million people were dead. Cities were reduced to rubble. The Holocaust had taken 6 million Jewish lives. Nuclear weapons had been unleashed on civilians. All of it began with the tanks that rolled across the Polish border in 1939. There was, indeed, no turning back. The world's descent into war also shattered any remaining faith in the old order of international diplomacy. The League of Nations, established after World War I to preserve peace, stood powerless as Hitler's ambitions unfolded. Its failure to respond decisively to Japan's invasion of Manchuria in 1931, Italy's conquest of Ethiopia in 1935, and now Germany's aggression in Poland marked the collapse of collective security. Nations realized that treaties alone were meaningless without the will to enforce them. This erosion of trust between countries would have lasting consequences.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you like videos like this. Thank you.